Hey, how's it going? Aries here. And today, I'm going to do a little bit something different. We're going to do a on-track review. All right. This is what we're working with. E100 currently on track right now. And I think it's going to be on track for at least a month, maybe two. And, I bet some of you are wondering, is it worth? In my opinion, yes, it is. I'm about to sneeze. Um, as you can see, I just bought all of them. I'm sort of broke. I had the E100, I had the Tiger one, and yeah, I bought them all back for your viewing pleasure. So, what are we working with here? Um, we're gonna start at the old tier 5 of this line. 3001H. Nothing too crazy about it. It actually does get this tier 7 gun, which is really damn good. Let's go ahead and fully kit this puppy out, shall we? See what she looks like. Yeah. Um, we'll just add it to the comparison. So, with this gun, and like if you wanted to 3-mark this thing, which is totally possible, I don't expect this thing's 3-mark requirements to be that crazy. With a standard, bog standard setup, you get 2k DPM at tier 5. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. Point 0.3 accuracy is really good at this tier. Really high rate of fire. Good aim time. Armor, it's tier 5. Who cares? You're going to be facing, tier 7s that are going to 2-shot you. So, doesn't really matter a whole lot. View range, a little bit left to be desired. Other than that, we'll probably just throw on coated optics. Bam. If you got a good crew, 458 view range. For like a free-to-play player or whatever, pretty good gun to use. It's a Jesus Christ 221. That is an insane amount of pen for any gun at this tier. So if you want to be a free-to-play player and grind out credits without having to pick up a premium tank, which I'm probably going to have to go do right after filming this video, this would be a pretty decent choice. Only downside is that this thing is incredibly slow. Goes 40 and it only has 10 power to weight. So if you really can't stand that, then maybe a turbo would be... Oh, that's not even that much better. Yeah, just stick with coated optics. Call it a day. Outspot everybody at this tier. Call it good. Good tank. So, oh, I'm probably going to have to do a new thing about this. Or about a new intro for this. Next, we got the VK3601H. Once again, a little bit of a boxy boy, but you can see how this is sort of getting to the point where it's turning into a tiger here. And so this thing, pretty good from what I can remember. I definitely did play this thing at some point. Yeah, I played this thing a good amount. This was way back in the day. Oh, no, that's not the right tank. Germany. Oh, apparently I have never played this tank. Okay. Interesting. Um, this tank is a very good... This is a very good tank. There's two different guns that you can use on it. You can use the Wafa from the tier... That's on the tier 5. And the 80 in this 88. You get some, I don't know if you get higher DPM. Okay, you do get some higher DPM with this 88, but it's less accurate. You know, the whole spiel. So, but yeah, nothing too crazy about this thing. Uh, you get obviously better armor than tier 5. It's actually kind of usable if you angle it correctly. But still, everything's going to pen you. Doesn't really matter. Um, you can side scrape in this thing quite well, unlike the Tiger 1, which we'll be looking at here in a minute. So if I was going to play this tank, I would just, we'll check it out on the bog standard. Okay, so this is using the 88. Let's see what we got here. No, I don't want that. 0.32, pretty alright. The pen is a little lacking at this tier, 145, so, the pen on this, not great. But still, 0.32 on this gun, 2-second aim time, 8 degrees of gun depression, 2400 DPM. Not bad. That is not bad at all. So, and so if we want, now if you wanted to use the, now if you wanted to use the 75 Wafa gun here, which this is a really good gun, still, you get, I guess, the exact same DPM, which is very interesting. I know you get a little bit more DPM, but you get way more accurate, but at the same time. So it's you do shed off a little bit of the weight from the 120 or from the what is it? From the 88, and you do lose a little bit of pen, but the gold pen on this gun is really really good. In all honesty, I would use both of these guns. I would use both of them. They're both really good choices depending on what you go for. Oh wait, no, that was because I was comparing it with that. Okay, with the premium round on this one. Um, so yeah, that definitely changes things. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. So it's just a preference on do you want less pen but more alpha or less alpha and more pen? Do you want to hit your shots more? And so yeah, that's basically it. But if you want to be an actual heavy tank, use the 88. If you want to be more of a like a support role, second line sort of thing, the this gun's way better. The 75. On to the tank that everybody wants, the Tiger. I am currently in the process of 3 marking this thing. That's why it's all kitted out already. Um, if you I've been streaming on YouTube recently, but tomorrow on the 22nd, I will be doing another live stream at around 4-ish Pacific, and that's going to be on Twitch. I'll do a Twitch stream where we will continue the 3 marking process of this, and this is a very good tank. From tier 7 and up, the whole E100 line got a buff like within the last like couple months, and the buffs made these things into absolute monsters. It just made them into absolute monsters, and they're pretty great nowadays. I don't have a great crew with this because I didn't feel like because I don't have any gold or much of anything on this on my account currently. So we'll just go ahead and take a look see here at what we're rolling at. Put that on. So with the current setup that I have right now, which is the improved hardening, and I'll explain why I have that on in a minute. But you get 2700 DPM if you have BIA, Recon, Situational awareness, vents, rammer, and food. That is really good. 2700 DPM at tier 7 with a gun like this is incredible. And it's probably one of the best, it's probably one of the best guns at this tier. Uh, if you wanted to put the vent there, you get a little bit more DPM, but it's not a huge amount. But hey, every little bit helps. Uh, Without the enhanced hardening, or the improved hardening, you have 1500 base hit point or 1500 hit points to boot, which is really good. Overall armor profile is 180 and 80, 100 on the front, 80 on the rear, and 80 on the 80 on the sides and 80 on the rear. Same thing with the turret. Um, you get with this setup 439 view range. So if you really wanted to get that view range, then put optics on. As there is no vertical stabilizer for heavy tanks at tier 7 and below. But yeah, this gun doing 280 alpha, this gun used to do 240. And it used to have a little bit faster rate of fire, and it was really fun. But this 280 alpha makes it so that you can actually like trade somewhat effectively with other heavy tanks at this tier. Um, you know, this looks like it's really slow. 700 horsepower, 12 specific power to weight, goes 40 forward, 12 backwards, and that is pretty slow. However, it gets up to that speed and gets close to 40 kilometers an hour pretty consistently, and it's not the slowest thing at tier 7 by far. This thing being able to go 40 definitely helps it a good amount. This thing also has 7 degrees of gun depression. It's pretty alright. It can be a little awkward though, because I think on some parts of the tank you get a little bit less. I'm thinking like over the corners of it. Like if you aim the gun down over on each of these corners, I think you might get a little bit less gun depression. I'm not sure. Haven't really looked at that. But yeah, this is just an overall just great tank nowadays. The Tiger one used to be considered a little bit of a stinker and like a bad player tank because this is what everybody goes for. You get the Sherman, you get the Tiger one and the Tiger 2, and that's what everybody goes for in World of Tanks because everybody's heard of those tanks. One thing with the armor layout on this is that, it's 100 millimeters on the front of it. Pretty alright. 80 on the side. 80 millimeters on the side of a tank is really good. Given if it's a good like profile. Also this part down here is like 60. Where in between the tracks and this bit, this is 60 millimeters. If you look at the VK, you can see that the turret is at the walls of the uh, of the tank. You know, the turret just rides right up against it and makes it really nice to be able to pull out and side scrape with this tank. And you'll see that with some of the other tanks coming up in the line. This thing, not so much. You get this pretty large gap in between the tank, or like the corner of the tank and the gun. So if you're pulling out the side scraping at somebody, this bit you expose pretty much this box right here whenever you side scrape on either side of the tank. And it just means that you're basically giving them a chance to shoot you. And it's just, way of the road, I guess. It's just a very poor, you can't really side scrape in a Tiger one. You can do it, and like you just try to predict when they're going to shoot you, and then you just turn a little bit, and then they'll hit this or they'll pen. Um, Excuse me. And so that brings me to my next sort of point, is that this thing gets perforated the entire time. Doesn't like, I think so far my bounce rate on this thing Like armor use efficiency is 0.25. The only like the average damage blocked by my armor is like 289, which is really bad compared to some of my other compared to some of the other ones in the like the tier 8, the tier 9, and the tier 10. That this armor use efficiency is way higher, mainly because they have way better armor profiles. Um, However, it does make it so that uh if you want to be able to improve on this thing, you have to use the improved hardening class 1. You can use whatever you want though. You can do, there's plenty of other options. There's like the improved rotation mechanism, so basically give it a little bit of a vertical stabilizer, which that's really nice. But if you want to be able to survive longer and be able to do more damage in a Tiger 1, improved hardening class 2, or the improved hardening is a very good thing to have on this tank. It means that you won't get tracked as easily when you're coming around a corner, because you're coming around a corner, they get basically the entire road wheel. If they shoot the entire road wheel, they're basically, they're going to track you. Like, no doubt about it, they are going to track you if you don't have the improved hardening. The improved hardening, plus 65% to suspension durability, which essentially means I think anything like at a 122 or above can track you one shot. I think maybe, I'm not too sure. Haven't really tested it out with guns bigger than that. But from what I've played so far, it is very difficult for guns at tier 7 to be able to track this thing consistently with this setup. It just means that, like, yeah, they'll pen you, but you can basically make sure that you can put a shot into them, and if their reload's long enough, too, before they put another shot into you. It's just a trading. This thing's just a trading machine at tier 7. And that's just the biggest thing that you have to exploit with this thing is the health pool, because it moves like a regular heavy tank, but it has the health pool of like a super heavy at tier 7, like the Oni or something like that. And this is just an overall solid tank. There's not really a whole lot else to say about it. If you can just work around not being really able to side scrape that effectively with it, um, and just the lack of useful armor, as it were. This gun melee can actually bounce pretty shots pretty consistently though. So if you poke up on a ridge and you're completely hull down, and you know you're completely hull down, you can, you know, pop up, take a shot, pop back down. And so yeah, that's just how this thing is, and it's a really good, it's just a good tier 7 nowadays. Now onto I think my favorite tank in the game, the ye old Tiger 2. This thing is an absolute monster nowadays. And let me show you why. And so the Tiger 2 is my favorite tier 8 heavy tank, and probably my favorite tank in the entire game. Just based on the fact of how good the gun is, and now the armor's pretty good, pretty damn good too. I 3-marked this thing before it even got buffed, because I always heard about the horror story of the Tiger 2 being just a bad tank. And um I was just like, all right, fuck it, we're just going to go 3-mark it. I think at that point I already 3-marked the Ferdinand, and I think maybe the E100. I can't remember if I 3-marked the E100 before the Tiger 2 or after I 3-marked it, but I'm pretty sure I 3-marked this thing before the E100. I could be completely wrong on that. Anyway, um, before it got buffed, the best thing about this tank was the was the this gun, which used to only have 320 alpha, and it used to not have 20 this much DPM as well. It's always been this accurate and always had this aim time, and it always had this rate of fire, but it used to only do 320 alpha. So let me do the math on that. That'd be 2300. So they gave this thing 40 more alpha and 300 and something more DPM. 2300 DPM at tier 8 back then was like, it's okay. Nothing too crazy. 2600 nowadays, 2600 DPM nowadays is pretty damn good. It's, you know, it's just a good DPM. Plus you get 360 alpha, which means that it can roll up to, I think, above 400. Yeah, you can roll up to 450 damage. Not only that, but this thing has some of the best gun stats, I think, on any heavy tank in the entire game. It's also one of the most accurate heavy tanks in this game at 0.27 dispersion. That, I think, is better by, I think, at least 3, like 0.3, but at least 0.03 or 0.04 dispersion from like the next best thing at this tier. I think it's definitely not this, right? Yeah, not that. I think the next most accurate heavy tank is this thing. Let's see. This is also a really good tank. Yeah. Yeah. I think this is the next like most accurate heavy tank at this tier, Carnarvon. And this thing also has like a monster gun. This thing's really good, the Carnarvon. If you ever get the Carnarvon, it's good. Um and it's just this thing's just insane. It used to only have the gun about it, and that was fine for me. I could live with the gun being as good as it was, and the rest of the tank not that great. That's what I loved about it. But then they went and buffed the armor. This thing used to only have 150 millimeters at the front of the hull, which is okay, but it could still get penned by like tier 9s, just shooting straight through the upper plate. Um, like the tier 7 version of the Tiger 2, which is this thing, has its original armor layout. The tier 7's turret armor was a 185, which means that like no matter what, you can get penned through the front by pretty much anything at tier 8 and or tier 10. You'd have to get very lucky in order to bounce. Now it has 245 millimeters at the front of this thing. It's not angled back the biggest amount, but it's angled back a little bit. And if you were using your 8 degrees of gun depression, I'm pretty sure this would jump up to like 250-ish. So unless if you're shooting gold at it, I don't think tier 8's shooting gold at it would have been able to pen it. Very few would. This ball turret or whatever, this thing stopped being a weak spot, I believe. And the whole upper plate's now 160. I think the lower plate is now as well. And it's just insane. You just angle it a little bit, and this whole upper plate just becomes just crazy. And I'm pretty sure this becomes impenetrable. It's just this thing's just a monster now with the gun set that it has, the DPM, and the armor now that it has now. It's just crazy. The only thing that's bad about it is the speed. And if you really can't stand how slow this thing is, you can throw a turbo on it, and it helps out by a decent amount. Brings it up a whole, thing. And this is just a really, really damn good tank and one of my favorite tanks in the entire game. If you like a really accurate gun and you want it at a low tier, the Tiger 2 is your tank. Fantastic. Really damn good. Moving on to the Tiger 2. Or not the Tiger 2. Did we put the Tiger 2 back in? The E75. E75. The E75 has always been good. It's always been in a good state in the game. Sorry, I just bumped my mic. It's just been a fantastic. It's just been a solid vehicle since I can remember. You know, a side scraping A75 was trouble. You couldn't really dig it out that often. Um, you'd either really have to get lucky with your shots, with going through the front of the turret, which the turret used to be 245, I believe. Now it's 280, or with heat or something like that, or you know, getting through the cupola. But nowadays, this thing's just an even bigger, just just monster. Side of the hole, 120 millimeters. You can basically angle it like this, and nothing's getting through that. The hole is a little bit more well angled than Tiger 2. I don't know if you can see it. There's like a little bit better. Like this goes down to here. This goes down to this way. This upper plate can't pen it, no matter what. I'm pretty sure. Like, I think only like Jaegeru Heat can pen this upper plate. Um, but I think that he has to be like on flat ground. Um, the armor on this thing very reliable. You can basically rely on it the entire time you're playing it. Fantastic tank. This thing used to have a 490 alpha gun, but when they changed the gun on the E100, this gun, which was also the 490, it was just the standard 128. They were like, oh, you know what? Since this is, the 128, why don't we just put it at tier 9? And as far as I can tell, the E75, since it got buffed, has not had a rate of fire change, I think. So I think that they just straight up gave this thing more DPM. I could be 100% wrong on that. I should probably check that before I go spouting that off. Yeah, the turret armor on the E75 used to be 252, by the way. The 3.88 rate of fire versus 3.99. Okay, so they slightly by like point. What would that be? Oh wait, no, they didn't. With 100% crew, it's a 3.99 rate of fire. So they just legit gave this thing more DPM. That's crazy. The DPM on the original E75 with the 128 was 1953, and I think bam, bam. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so you used to get 2300 DPM with the E75 with the 490 alpha. With this fucking monster, you get 2500, and you get 0.32 accuracy, so you're pretty accurate, and you get decent aim time of 2.1, and you get just an insane, like a really good turret, really good upper hull or upper plate. Um, it's just this thing's just in a really good place. Might be a little bit too good nowadays, but you know, tier nines have always been really good in this game. Now it's on to the big dog, the E100, the king of semi super heavy or super heavies, as I would say it. The mouse is good and everything, um, but it doesn't command the attention like an E100 does. Because you know why? Because of this gun, the 15, the 150, the big bada boom. You know, the big hey look at me. I got big gun. I got I got big gun syndrome. Um, I 3 marked this tank back before it got buffed. I really wish I would have 3 marked this thing before it got buffed because this thing's 3 mark requirements probably shot up through the goddamn roof because of how just this gun. I don't know. I could be wrong on that. This is like a special skin, by the way, if you're wondering. Don't have the greatest crew in it, but like, let's see. Uh, with this gun, you get almost 3k damage on a 150. That's not bad. That's definitely better than like the 705A, which has a 152. What else? What other heavy tanks have a 150? I guess the 60p, but that thing actually has 3k damage, 3k DPM. What else? What else has a 150? I don't think anything else, any other heavy tanks have a 150 other than, yeah, no other heavy tanks have a 150. Yeah. I mean, you could count the Type 5s, either this thing or this gun. Don't really count that. This 140 is kind of in a different league. It's more like the 705A's gun, but it's not a 150. It's really weird. But anyway, back to the E100. This thing is a monster nowadays. It's just tier 8 can't fuck with it that much. Um, Type 5 heavies. I remember when I was playing this thing a lot after I got back from like a break, and I saw that they changed the HE shell on it. Um, this top bar you would be able to pen with the HE gun and do like 900 plus damage, and it was just so much fun because pretty much every E100 that you come across is going to be shooting heat. It's just the product of, it's like, oh hey, you get 246 pen. Oh, that's not that great, and the shell velocity's slow, but if I just dab this, the shell velocity gets worse. But I got 300 plus millimeters of pen. Fucking double tap that 2 key, let her rip. And, you'll just end up doing like 7,000 damage. Not really. You gotta still know where to aim on some tanks, but, that's what everybody thinks, is that you can just spam gold and do like 10 million damage, which you can sometimes, but you also have to be a decent player. Um, so stop. Anyway, I think that this 150 is probably still the best choice for the E100. It's definitely the most fun. It's definitely the funner or the more fun choice on this thing because you hit somebody, you're able to roll up to 900. Do you know what it feels like to hit somebody with a heavy tank and roll up to 900 damage? Oh, so good. It's the best. Nothing can compare. Um anyway, uh armor profile, 200 millimeters upper plate. You can't mess with it. I think the lower plate is also kind of nutty. Give me 1 second. I'm looking right here. So the lower plate is 150 millimeters, so it's like 230 effective if he's on flat ground. But you just angle that puppy a little bit. You basically just throw a like a 45-degree angle on that bad boy. Becomes 286. You just can't pen it. It's just an insane sort of thing. Yeah, essentially this angle that you're looking at right now, you just throw this corner at the front of somebody's tank or whoever's shooting at you, and they basically can't get through unless they spam heat. Um, so yeah, is this ain't there's just no. I mean, everybody knows what the E100 is. It's just a strong, strong heavy tank, and it's like the purest form of a heavy tank. It's big, it hits hard, has a lot of armor, it has a lot of HP. It's it's slow. Did I already say slow? I don't know. It's just this thing's just an absolute beast. Um, now let's go into outfitting this thing. If you're feeling spicy. So the bog standard setup, you'll get, good DPM, you'll get some good gun stats, you'll get some good V range, like a normal setup. But if you want to do some memes, and where like the enemies will freak out if they see you, is that you run the improved hardening. Basically, you almost get up to 3k health, which is insane. But it also means that they can't track you. It already takes like 1 to 2 shots with a 120 mil in order to track this thing. This thing has a huge amount of track health. You throw this on, it takes like 3 shots or 2.5 shots or something like that, something weird, in order to track this thing. It just means that you'll barely ever get tracked. And plus, you let the thing repair itself, you get 100% durability back, and this setup is just like you're just marching towards them, just pumping them full of 750 alpha. They can't do anything about it. It's pretty funny to see, um, and it's just funny. You do lose out on some view range, and you do lose out on DPM and accuracy, and everything. But if you want the memes, that's it. But if you want to have some pretty good games, this is it. Now, one thing that I didn't think about is putting this on. Oh no, that's not worth. Okay, never mind. Ignore that. Um, so yeah, that's essentially it. In conclusion, this whole tank line, pretty solid. Tier 5 you might have a little bit of trouble with because, uh, you know, it has like an Alabama family tree of like components that you need to research. It's a huge fucking mess on this. After that, things become pretty clear and simple with this thing, you know. And you know, after the VK, you get basically a choice of like one gun to use on these, and then with E100 you get a choice of two. You do get the 530 Alpha 128, because you get 3k DPM. It's a good gun, but it doesn't demand the amount of fear that 150 does. They see that muzzle brake on the front of you, on the end of that gun, and it just something clicks in the enemy team's monkey brains, and they're just like, ooh, don't want to pull out, don't want to trade with that. It's really funny. If you're using this gun now, when I have used this gun, people are a lot more willing to try to poke out and try to shoot trade with you for some reason, even though you're still doing a quarter of their hit points of damage. Um, and you have over 3k DPM, they still want to try to fight you like just head to head. Um, the only problem with this gun is that you can't really deal with 279Es that effectively. And now 279Es, they're not the most common thing in the world, but not having that 330 heat pen kind of doesn't really help, and also not having 150 millimeter HE also doesn't really help that much either. So yeah, that's just that's the conclusion right there. Or I should say, the conclusion is, should you grind down this line if you haven't done it already? Yes. For the most part, from tier 5 onwards, they are good tanks. Within their tier, um, like the tier 5 and the tier 6, the tier 5 is going to be kind of rough because it's a medium tank, but it's super slow and it has no armor and it is big. So that might not be the if you're looking for a tank to skip, then yeah, skip the tier 5. Unless if you need like a little bit of a moneymaker, this tier 5 is pretty good for it. But as well as like the Panzer IV and the M4 and all that fun stuff. The VK, this thing, um, it's an okay tank to play. I've never played it. I thought I played it before. Oh no, I played it on the console version once, way back in the day. Um, so solid tank. I've seen people do really well on this thing, and I've done really well on this thing a long time ago. Um, Tiger One, good tank. It's able to deal with tier 8s and tier 7s pretty effectively. Tiger 2, in my opinion, a fantastic tank. I love it. It's my favorite tank in the entire game. E75's certified monster. E100, the Big Daddy E100. No introduction needed. Always the E100 is a fun tier 10 heavy. Um, and so yeah, I guess I'll just dive into some gameplay. I guess. Hey, how's it going? So I was in the middle of editing this, and I was like, man, this is way too much video for essentially a rant. So you won't be seeing any gameplay, unfortunately. Um, but I'll be playing the tanks pretty much for the rest while they're on track, trying to three mark the rest of them, like the E75 and the Tiger One, and the Tier 6 and the Tier 5. So if you want to see that, I'm either going to be streaming on YouTube and Twitch. I'm going to be switching on and off for like the next week or two until I finally move down to Texas, which that's going to be on like in March or the next month. So yeah, so you can catch me there. You can catch me on Twitch at twitch.tv/IGR Aries. And then, if you're already watching this video for YouTube, just tune on in whenever you get the notification, and we'll have a good time. So yeah, no gameplay unfortunately because this video is going to be way too long. It's already way too long as it is. I'll probably try to cut it down just a teensy bit, but yeah, that's going to be it, and I'll see you later.